Okay, so welcome to Gear Anonymous. My name's Cordy. I've been playing guitar since I was young, and I have a problem with gear, and I'm here today to talk about that. So I guess some of you guys have reached out and said that you appreciate it when someone on YouTube talks about kind of the things, I guess, that we all, if we are fortunate enough to be able to think about when it comes to gear. Now, obviously the elephant in the room is that some people can't afford to buy some of this posh gear and or any gear, or some people have other things which they have to spend their money on. So for me personally, I drive quite a rubbish car, Skoda Fabia, from 2010, I think. So what's that? It's a 12-year-old car, the maths. I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I don't really go out much. So what you see me using on this channel predominantly is stuff that I bought with money over the years. That aside though, I feel like I still want to be in a position where I'm more in control of this stuff, you know, where it's not like I'm going out and buying the latest thing just because it's a limited edition, or because I saw a demo of something, or because I think I need another amp. So I think I'm at the stage where, what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 amps in the room with me, and most of the time you'll probably know I use a modelling device. So there's still work to be done here, right? So I was looking at kind of AndyTim as an example of this, and you know, what could we learn from someone like AndyTim? So Andy, live for many years now, has used a Mesa Boogie Lone Star, and I love this idea of you just having like this one amp that you gravitate towards and it getting the job done for pretty much anything. I really like that as an idea. I don't like so much the idea of having loads of amps and then occasionally they get a run out, right? I don't really, for me, I as much as I like amps, I don't use them tons. They take up a lot of space. Some of them are very loud for some reason. The ones that are like 25 watts are louder than the 100-watt ones. So the idea of kind of cutting that back a bit might be useful. And I don't think that I succumb to gas online the same way with amps as I do, or am susceptible for pedals. And I think there's a reason for that. So things like this. So the Nobles ODR 1, I bought this months ago and I've used it once. So the idea was, it's a limited edition. This is number 1651 out of 2000, 1651. That's obviously how you would actually say that, innit? Yeah, I've not used it, so that's cool, innit? So I guess that one can go on eBay, although it's limited edition. Is it ever going to be worth anything? I don't know. Are Nobles ODR 1s actually rare? Probably not. But the idea was, you know, in that case, I bought it because it was limited edition for whatever reason. I think it's got a sparklier thing. But I haven't used it at all. Would I miss it if it goes? Probably not. On the other hand, this is an Ibanez TS10. This one's a little bit kind of, they're not rare, are they? But they're desirable. And if I need to grab a tube screamer, that'll be the one that I grab. So in that case, I have used that a few times in the last kind of year or so. So that one, I think, can stay and it wouldn't be a problem, right? But the reason that I think that we have an issue with this stuff is that pedal companies, these are small things, they're easy to post, right? I think a lot of them are fairly easy to design. You know, these are existing designs. So if someone was to bring out a tube screamer, it's a 40-year-old design, and there's loads of examples of this sort of thing out there. You know, there's probably a bunch of free schematics that you could use. There's probably a bunch of free PCB layouts that you could use, right? It wouldn't be that difficult to come out with your own tube screamer, relatively, right? Compared to an amp or a guitar or something. Manufacturing these sorts of things is relatively easy, you know, because we have places that manufacture toasters and microwaves and things like that all the time. These are in smaller batches, easier to make, relatively niche, and few components. Then, you know, you could pay Johnny YouTuber an amount of money and probably Johnny YouTube is going to say yes, because why wouldn't he if someone's saying, I'll pay you money to show you this on your channel, and then, you know, you pay that person, they get a few views on it, and generally pedals tend to sound good, I find, or, you know, you're not going to put out a demo where it sounds deliberately bad, and then you, the viewer, goes, okay, so that's what that sounds like then, and you grab a pedal. Is kind of easy, and the amount of money that a pedal like whatever costs, you know, they could be between 100 to 350 pounds. It's within that range that is more likely to encourage impulse buying than something like a big amp. And I think that's partly why people end up with loads of pedals, right? And, you know, you might build a pedal board, and then slowly the problem grows and you build another pedal board. You might have your favorite tube screamers, you swap them in and out occasionally. Let me know if that is you. But I think the pedal board itself can kind of be like an extension of your childhood, where you're like building toys out of Lego and stuff. You kind of build together a pretty pedal board and people take pictures of it, and, you know, how neat is that? How tidy is that? It's sort of like Airfix as well, right? But I think that's why there was a pedal boom, because people realized that you can market these things quite effectively, and if you paint them pretty colors and design them cleverly, then people do want them, especially if Johnny YouTuber shows them or whatever. So I kind of decided a while ago that I didn't want to go down the route of doing too much paid demo work, because it feels a little bit weird to me, because the idea for me was that the channel was about kind of how I would spend my money and the choices that I'm making with gear, and it doesn't really work so well if everything that I show you has been given to me and it didn't come at any cost, right? So that's kind of my own personal thoughts on some of this. If you do see me wearing a suit and running through spec sheets, do know that I took money to make that video, but I will make it very clear in the video as well. Coming up probably. Now, I was thinking, like, how can you stop yourself when you're in that moment of making the decision about whether to make an impulse buy or not? And so yesterday, I don't know if you saw the video, I was dealing with that AndyTim tone on the Helix, and I think maybe something like that, or like last night I was just playing all by myself for some reason, and instead of looking for that something new in a material format, maybe you go, right, I'm going to try and learn something new. And you probably have to be fairly strict on this, and I'm not telling you what to do, this is just a thought for myself. You know, so I've also been looking at maybe getting an Eastman ES335 type. Leave a comment below if you think I should or shouldn't, to try and review that. So the idea is, again, as I say, I want to try and actually be spending the money on these things or borrow them from a friend. But, you know, I was playing that on the Greco Super Reel, debating whether to spend sort of £1,500 on an Eastman guitar, which I don't really know. Am I going to love it? Am I not? Am I going to use it for a long time or not? Do I need it? Is it going to be much better than the Sire? All these questions that I think have some interest for the channel, but at least for me personally as well, is whether I have that money to drop. So yeah, once you're, maybe think about AndyTim next time you're scrolling, because I think whatever AndyTim plays sounds incredible, and necessarily he wouldn't have had to buy a new amp for kind of years, right? Because he's found one that really works for him. Equally, that blues driver that he plays all the time, I do want to demo a blues driver, by the way. Maybe that is something I need to get on eBay and grab. That's been in place, a Keeley modded blues driver, for ages, right? And, you know, once you find something that works, do you have to change it? So for me, for example, like the HX Stomp or the Helix, I find that I get my favorite kind of tones and have the most fun with these things. I don't necessarily need to change it up and switch it every time. And there is definitely a cost involved when you do that. And, you know, the latest piece of gear is going to get more views almost always, but there's like a tail to that. So again, like the universal audio pedals, like I know there's interest in these, and I was semi-tempted to grab one of those, but it's, again, 350 quid. And are they going to sound measurably different to any of these other things that I've got, you know, like an HX Stomp, a Kemper, an Iridium. These pedals also sound like an AC30, right? And we can see examples of people that have dialed these things online to sound like the thing already. So how much more realistic can these things get is a question in my mind. So I could grab the piece of gear and I could try and put some pieces of stuff together on it, but it is going to cost me money. And do I want another thing to do amp modeling in a slight limited way? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, how you stop yourself buying gear when it's not the right time to do so. The other thing is, like, you know, if you don't spend money on gear, then potentially a few weeks or months down the line, when you do see that thing that actually would have been something that you really wanted, you might be able to jump on that. This is the thinking that I'm thinking, like, one day I might see a Greco Super Reel 1200, SA1200 come up, and at that point, if I had some money to spend on it, would I regret if I'd already spent kind of what I deem myself suitable money on a bunch of other ES335 type things? Or, you know, if I've got a cupboard full of stuff over there, should I be selling that already so that when the opportunity comes, I would have that money? I don't know. Also, the Joe Satriani was talking about how he feels like some guilt about not using certain pieces of gear that he said he uses, or pieces of gear that he's had a deal in place to use. So he said on his thing that he's got a plugin, signature plugin, the Joe Satriani plugin, and he was going to go and do his interviews talking about how he's been using the Sandamp plugin, which he doesn't promote or anything, doesn't have a deal with, and he felt some sort of guilt, and, you know, like, I have to be honest about this, didn't use that plugin for this album. Yeah, you know, it's a bit of a conundrum, isn't it? So you're like, as a person on YouTube showing you bits of gear that I use, you know, there is a distinction between the bits that I'm showing you because I'm just interested in how they sound. Ooh, that's gone down, isn't it? To the bits that I actually use day in and day out. And so that is the HX Stomp and the Helix. That's what I use pretty much every day. I'll be gigging later and I'll be using one of them. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. It'd be really nice, I think, to have like a more minimal kind of approach to some of this stuff. You know, if I could show you more videos with less gear and still get the same amount of people interested, that'd be cool. But what I really don't want to get to is the stage where I'm just showing you a bunch of stuff that was given to me for free, and I don't consider the fact that most people don't get given gear, and, you know, I don't generally either, that at some point I might, and then it's never about choice for me as someone who gets given everything, right? Especially in a position where I could buy things. I want to try and keep it a bit more real without going broke. So, you know, the idea, right, I bought this pedal because, is a bit different to the idea I was given this pedal and, right? I don't know. Am I wrong? What do you reckon? Catch you in another video soon. Cheers.